Welcome to the podcast designed to fuel your success selling technology solutions. I'm your host, Josh Lopresto, SVP of Sales Engineering at Telarus, and this is Next Level Biz Tech. Today we are on talking about CX and AI. Title of the episode today, The New CX Stack, AI, Automation, and Revenue Impact. That's a lot of words. We need a smart guy on to help us, and on with us today, we got Mr. Brent Wilford, Solution Architect over CX. Brent, welcome on, dude.
Thank you, Josh. Great to be here.
We got a lot to cover, man. I know a lot of people know the Brent Wilford experience. They know who you are, but for anybody that is new and does not know, just give us a little background on how you got started. Take us back. How did you first get into tech and sales, and kind of now here we are?
Yeah. So if you want to go back, it's going to have to go back to Red Robin. And I know that sounds funny, but working through college, I worked at Red Robin and I was doing graphic design for the Yellow Pages. I wanted to be an advertising major. I was going to make funny beer commercials. That was the goal. But you have to kind of sell yourself. You have to be able to know people in the industry before the internet, like people had desk phones. So when I graduated college and I couldn't get a job by myself, I spent a lot of time looking for work in graphic design and ways to get in the industry. And I failed so much and I rejected all kinds of sales jobs. I didn't want to be a vacuum salesman, right? I didn't want to say, hey, let me put this dirt on your floor and vacuum it on up. And how many do you want? That was not me at all. I didn't want to bother people. So I kept getting these sales jobs thrown at me. And I'm like, no, I want to make ads. I want to create copy. I want to do these things. But I kept working at Red Robin and I kept singing the birthday song and it kept driving me nuts. And I eventually got offered an inside sales job at Nextel, right? Two-way radio, cell phone company. This is 1999. So like beginning of, commercial cell phones for most people being affordable. And I said, what's inside sales? Do I have to bother people? And they said, no, you don't have to bother people. They call you and you just sell them. I said, no more birthday songs. I want to do it, right? So I said goodbye to Red Robin. I said goodbye to the Yellow Pages. No more tracing bouncy houses and pizzas. And I learned how to sell. So I worked in a call center, right? I got calls delivered to me. I learned the pitch. I learned how to talk about the Nextel benefits, and I really excelled at that. I got good at selling. We could only sell 5 phones at a time, kind of thing. But I moved into outside sales for a year, and it was terrible. They had all these high expectations of me because I was so good at inside sales. But cold calling, like going back to the vacuum sales apprehension analogy, I really, really hated cold calling. Like getting told no affected me. And it wasn't, my personality wasn't able to come through. So even when I got a meeting, I was still nervous in the meeting, kind of thing. Like I would screw up a natural sale. I got hey, I need 10 phones. Let's come talk about it. And I couldn't make it happen. So I was getting ready to quit Nextel. I really liked the product. I could understand it. I could sell it well, but I just wasn't, being the salesperson wasn't for me. And they came up with this job called DAE, Data Account Executive. And it was when 2G networks were first released on cell phones. They really didn't do much, but on the Nextel network, you could do a few things. You could use it to track devices. You could do address book updates. So one of the big things with Nextel was the two-way radio and these construction jobs, but guys came in all the time. And so you had to update who this user was a lot. And to do it manually was a real pain. So over the 2G network, you could update the address book. And then there was one other product, I forget what it was, but like they wanted someone to four-legged call these sales calls. So I didn't have to prospect. When I went on the call, I helped sell Nextel. I sold these data products. We all made way more money than we should have for what we were selling. That's how I got started in tech sales, was Red Robin to 2G data. That's kind of the impetus of the BWE experience. The BWE that we talked about.
I mean, nobody started out to do this. It seems like this industry, this world. That's like my favorite part of doing this show is that I think it tells you that anybody can do anything, and we just all have this kind of weird, windy path. And you just, it's like talking to the kids. Like, you don't need to have figured out what you want to do at 16. I mean, it took me a long, long time to figure that out. Just try things, figure out what makes you happy, get some experiences, and struggle a little bit. So I love hearing that example. So take us through. I always like to hear hard lessons learned, mentors. I mean, early on, anywhere in your career, great mentor gave you a good piece of advice, anything that kind of shaped how you sell or even kind of how you think about this whole customer relationship thing.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't necessarily the customer relationship, but it was that inflection point. So the DAE role there at Nextel was really lucrative for a few years. And then, Nextel eventually figured out, hey, we're paying these guys to sell. We're paying them way too much to sell what they're selling, kind of thing. We can do this more cost effectively. So I could see the end of the line, right, to the kind of the gravy train that we were on. And I'm like, okay, well, this is going to end. I can either go back into sales, which I know is terrible, or there's that one guy, that one really smart guy, Mark. His name's Mark McAvity. He was the sales engineer. And whenever he's in meetings, IT people really listen to him. Like, he speaks their language. He doesn't flinch. Whatever, it doesn't matter what they say to him. He understands what they're saying, and he understands how to position this technology to solve that problem. And that interests me because, one, I was terrible at sales, right? It's like option B wasn't really there. But I was very curious. I was intrigued by what he knew and how and where he learned it and how he got to where he was, and how do I, if I want to do that, like, how long does that take? Like, what do I need to do? And I asked him. That was the one cold call that I was successful at, was going to Mark and say, hey, Mark, I'm really interested in what a sales engineer is and what do you do? And can I be one? Like, what would I have to learn to go be one? And he was so naturally willing to help me. And he was so generous with his time. I remember we sat down in this one meeting, and he kind of mapped out some things that didn't make sense to me, right? I was still just a guy living with my college buddies and, hanging out on the weekends. He helped propel me to where I am today, because he helped me understand, the internet is becoming, more widely available, and you need to go back to school, and you need to learn TCP/IP, and you need to learn networking, and you need to learn how data packets move around, and how the voice, and then this is how the Nextel, this is how the cellular network works, and there's the core. And so if you can answer these questions, then this is what IT people need to know about cell phones specifically, right? And we were doing a lot of SLED work, so police and fire work, and how the modems in the car would help power the laptops so they could either run the license plate or they would get their CAD dispatching for fire and EMS emergencies. And so he really was generous with his time. He helped me understand there was an entire world of technology that if I took the time to go learn it, that I could then use my personality and my ability, the beginnings of the customer relationship that I was beginning to form, my personality and my comfortableness in front of tech folks and IT folks, that I could probably give this a go. And that really started, so the DA thing was one thing. But when I asked him about what an SE was, and I went back to local community college and I took 2 or 3 classes on, how to design a Wi-Fi network, and what, was it NetBio or NetBUI or whatever Microsoft came, like all this weird random stuff. That stuff you just threw away, but understanding the basics of networking, understanding TCP/IP protocol, the OSI layers, all of that stuff. That's what allowed me to make the transition from underperforming tech guy to overpaid DAE to an actual sales engineer, and that's really where we go. So Mark McAvity, if this ever makes it to you, thank you so much. I appreciate your help.
Shout out to Mark. Love it.
And he went on to be like super smart Microsoft. Like, he's done like amazingly, highly technical things, far more than I was capable of. But he was generous enough with his time, and I was able to take that little bit of information and make my own career out of it.
So I have my own answer to this to some extent, but what was your perception of what a sales engineer was prior to that? What
Mm-hmm.
kind of what was your thought? Kind of what happened behind the scenes?
No, and this is a good question, because it changes over time, right? But originally, it was just answer questions, yes or no. Like, that was it. Can I do this? Can I do that? Yes or no. And you just let the chips fall where they may. And I wasn't a great sales engineer for the sales part. I was a great engineer. I was truthful. Can I do this? No, it doesn't do that. See you later. And then the salespeople always be like, well, but I have a quota to hit. Like, what are we supposed to do here? I'm like, not my problem. Doesn't do that. And I learned when I got to Fuse, right? So we skipped over quite a long time there. But another major mentor I have is Michael Musselman, was my sales engineering manager at Fuse. And he helped me really understand, along with MEDDIC sales philosophy, right?
Yeah.
MEDDIC. He helped me understand, hey, the answer might be no, and a lot of times the answer is no. But we also have a sales process to hear. So can you just be curious enough to find out what they're trying to accomplish? And maybe we can accomplish it a different way. So it doesn't have to be black and white no all the time. You can still move forward, because even though the customer thinks that's the requirement, it doesn't always mean that's the requirement, or doesn't mean that they can't do it a different way or accomplish the goals somewhere else technically. So originally, yeah, the thought was, I just answer questions yes or no, and I sit there and someone pays me. And that can be true, but to really be a capital S sales engineer, You have to embrace both the technical aspects of what's possible and not possible, where we're trying to go with the sale, and find an ethical middle ground to continue down that sales process as long as it is ethically possible.
Yeah. I love let's see if he listens to this. Shout out to Scott Forbush. He taught me that there was capitalization in lowercase in S and E.
Scott Forbush can teach a lot of things to a lot of people, but we don't
we,
have time for that
well,
on this
no, we don't.
podcast.
It's not. No, no, we can't go down that road. All right. So you've been on the TSD side, you've been on the supplier side. As we get into this kind of this idea of the new CX stack, AI, automation, and it's just a little bit different now. Is there anything that you're seeing? What do advisors maybe misunderstand about how these CX deals are won in the trenches for anybody that hasn't really ventured into this yet?
Mhm. Um, there's it's not a short answer to that question, but if I could pick out the highlights to that, it still involves being curious. CX is a complicated sale, even if we're just selling voice, which is rare these days. But if we're just even if we're selling voice, contact center was a cost center for decades and decades and decades, right? Like, how do we pay these people the least amount of money to answer these calls of with people we don't want to talk to, right? We just want them to pay their bill and not cancel, but we have to somehow have this call center to get people not to cancel, kind of thing. And the world has, the digital front door, the way that social media, the way that digital entry points to communication have changed our communication as human beings, but specifically as B2C or business to customer or consumer. Um, Contact center is a profit center. It is a brand ambassador, right? It is the way that people of all ages, whether we're talking about Gen Alpha all the way through boomers, maybe not boomers because my dad can't really work, a computer that well. The way that people communicate has changed so much that if you just approach contact center as this is how voice calls get connected to people, and we're just going to deal with it on a minimalist attitude, then you are decades behind, right? You're the Stone Age, right? You're crafting a wheel out of stone, kind of thing, and you're not gonna find a lot of success because the contact center is now a sales center. It is, like I said, it's a brand ambassador. It's reputation alignment. It's keeping people from canceling, going to your competitor. The statistics are everywhere for trusted advisors to find. But one bad experience sends people running out the door to a competitor. And in a world where there's more competitors than ever, and it's easier to find them than ever, you have to work hard. You have to invest in this technology and this contact center for it to be everything and all things to your customer and for the agent that's representing you, right? If your employee has a bad day, if you give them technology that stinks, if you don't give them access to find information and say, hey, Josh, I know you're calling about this specific product that you bought last week, and how can I help you? If you make it hard for the agent, they can't be friendly and they can't fix problems for someone that's calling in that is on the precipice of canceling or on the precipice of placing a huge order. Like, you don't know what's on the other end of that call or that chat or that digital interaction. And so, yeah, this is complicated, but what trust advisors need to know that if you help businesses find the right technology that allows them to communicate fluently in multiple different ways with customers of all ages and generations, you are not only fundamentally changing the success and the trajectory of that customer and allowing them to succeed in a world that is more competitive than ever, but you are able to take that story to the next customer and the next customer and next customer and say, I've done this before. I haven't seen everything, but I've seen a lot. And I think I can help you because at the end of the day, advisors are doing this for their own benefit, right? For their own revenue, for their own success. And the ability to replicate success is the key to all of us doing what we want to do in life, right? What we pay for our car and our vacations and our homes and all that. But work can be easier if you just take joy in aligning technology to desired business outcomes and helping those businesses succeed, because then your success comes from their success.
So it's a good. I think everything up to this point is a good foundation of kind of how you do what you do, right? With your story, what some of these examples are, and to that point, let's go deeper on an example. I mean, walk me through situation where you got brought in, you got to be the architect, you got to kind of do these things. Walk me through what was that experience like, kind of before, after, during.
When you work when you work at a TSD, um, there's thousands of examples. Like, it's hard to pull them out. Um, but the main goal here, right, the architect, right, the role that I bring to Telarus, um, is calm confidence, right? You may be a one-person shop, you may be a 20-person shop. You may know a lot more about CX than I do. That there's a lot of advisors out there doing this longer, better than I do. But the customer doesn't know that, right? And the customer is so busy in their day to day and their problems and whatever they're dealing with, like they don't just have time to sit there and research Gartner reports and Genesis versus Nice all day, and then 100 different point solutions on AI. So like a lot of these customers don't know what they don't know, right? They know they need to go somewhere and they know they need something better than they have today. But like what that road to evaluation looks like is so murky and undefined that they are simply looking for someone who can help walk down that path with them, and provide, just shine a light in the dark, if you will, to be a little corny. Um, and that's really what we do here. So whether it's a big, UCAS deal, like, hey, listen, Mr. Mrs. IT person, you're doing global UCAS for 5,000 users. Have you ever thought about talking to people outside of IT on what they want a phone system look like? That that concept is so simple, but it blows people's minds because the answer most times is no. I've never thought about asking my end users what they actually want. I'm just the IT person, and I just want to tell them what to use and for them to go away. Like that's kind of how it works. Like that's it's an example of just the sales philosophy of, okay, can we get outside voices into this evaluation so we get a yes from more people than just the signature and the evaluator, the IT evaluator. And then in contact center, a lot of it is just it's just listening. I mean, it's core sales. But if you just listen and you ask thoughtful questions, like I know the aspects of technology that go into a contact center evaluation, right? We have voice, we have omni-channel, we have reporting, we have AI, and we have all these different things, that gates that we need to check, and information we need to gather. But when you're able to just spend time listening to a customer, and ask them questions, it makes them feel more comfortable. Not every customer; some customers are just wound up, but most times they're just happy to have someone listen to them and be interested in what that future state is for their technology and their group, because they have promotions, right? They have goals for their career that they want, and this technology evaluation, if it goes right,
Yeah.
helps get them there. And if it goes wrong, it's a fireable offense sometimes, right? And so like what we do here is not trivial. It's not just saying, well, here's 3 contact center vendors, good luck, they'll all be fine eventually. It's really important what we do here. So I get involved in a lot of contact center evaluations, voice UCAS evaluations, AI discussions, like what's the possibility of AI in today's contact center. And there's not one thing that I could say where I got involved in this person closed this deal because of one little question I brought up or one feature that no one thought of. Like it's just it's a desire to want to help people, and then the underlying knowledge of saying, hey, I've read all these reports and I've been through 100 different evaluations and I've seen the roadmaps of all these people, and I can help you get where you want to get. I just need to meet you. I just need to understand what's important to you. So there's a lot of examples. I didn't really answer your question,
No,
but
it's a good I mean, I think it's even more powerful than a singular example because it's a collection and that drives home a point of I think the end customers a lot of times are doing this thing for the first and maybe the only time they'll ever do it in their career. And meanwhile, we might have done it 4 times that day. And so I think just harnessing the goodness of that and I think you put a bow on it well. It gives us this calm confidence of how you walk into these, how you have these conversations, and they feel validated, they feel heard, they feel like, "Oh, okay, yeah, this is not like he's not trying to push a thing. He knows what we're going through, and he's seen it before, and we're probably not that much different, even though they might feel like they're different. It's not really
yeah, and
that."
and that's a huge difference here. Like I like working at a vendor's fun. Like you get really deep into technology, you really get to put, box out other competition or really, try and win, right? Like the goal is to win. Um, but you really force a lot of square pegs around holes working at a vendor. Not all, not unethically, but like there's always things that your software, your product doesn't do well, or it doesn't do as well as XYZ, or it doesn't do the way this customer's asking
Yeah,
for. But you only have so many opportunities in the funnel, and so you got to figure out how to win, even when you're not, you're like 80% of what they want, maybe
yeah,
not 100% of what they want. And so here we almost always get to be almost 100% of what they want. Like we have so much available technology, so much insight to what's coming down the pike, and the ability to shape the customer requirements, right? Because as a vendor, I can't shape the customer requirements. They're given to me. But if come in the discovery phase, if I come in when the customer really is asking for that help, asking for that vision of what's possible and what could they really do, you have the ability to retrain their thought process and their expectations of what software is and what customer experience is, and the ability to say, hey, I know you're talking about it this way, but if you just tweak it a little bit, you'll probably provide a better CX to your customers, and you're going to align with where the technology is today, as opposed to asking for something that's got to be custom built or hard to develop or something like that. So it's really, really interesting being here at the TSD because there's just, it's the Cheesecake Factory menu of technology, if you will.
Mhm.
Um, but sometimes you're in the mood for a sandwich, and sometimes you're in the mood for a salad, and sometimes you're in the mood for a steak. And that way, we have all of that here.
That's right. So,
I keep going back to restaurants. I gotta figure that out.
you got it locked down. You know it. I'm
Just
telling
no
you.
birthday
Free
songs. No
free
more birthday
breadsticks,
songs.
unlimited
That's
breadsticks.
it.
No.
No OG.
Uh,
We're not doing Olive Garden here.
we've had some Olive Garden folks on before. So CX has changed, obviously, a lot. We could look back. Let's just look back. I mean, 18 to 24 months. We got a lot of TAs that have been doing this a long time, and 18 to 24 months. We're talking about the new stack. We're talking about
Hmm.
how that's different. What's changed? I mean, what's fundamentally changed? Obviously, AI, but
Hmm.
in your perspective, discovery calls, customer conversations, TA conversations, from your seat, what's changed?
I think vendor maturity. I worked at a TSD prior, and then I was at a vendor. I was out of that game for about 18 months, and now stepping back into it. The vendor maturity ramped up in those 18 months. Like, people went from, hey, we're toying with this stuff, we're in the beginning stages of these things, to we're now in stage 3 or 4. Like, we are we're past the idea of agentic AI. Like, we have the ability to automate things. We have the ability to give agents autonomy in terms of processing your claim and your refund to your credit card and rescheduling your appointment. Like, it's not just trial and error with one simple thing. Like, okay, Mr. Lopresto, you want to make an appointment here, and I'm going to schedule this appointment in this one API, and that's that. And it's so minimal that if I screw it up, that there's a human in the loop, check into each one, and we'll get it figured out. I saw a demo last week where an AI agent, right, was processing 4 or 5 things on a call, and it was showing me in real time on the back end like how it was changing those things. Yeah, we went from concept to production pretty quickly here. I hope we don't get to Terminator that fast. But the vendor maturity has really ramped up, not only from the core CX players, but the individual point solutions that are in the ecosystem as well, and they're starting to get more use cases, right? Like, nobody wants to be first, so everyone's like, hey, that sounds great on paper, but if I'm going to be your first customer, like, that's a lot of risk for me. They all have these use cases under their belt. Like, there was a lot of trial and error in those 18 months of customers deploying AI, whether they did it themselves or with vendor one. And maybe vendor one was successful. Maybe in a lot of cases they weren't. But the customer learned a lot about what it can and can't do and how to manage it. And the vendors learned a lot about how to present it in a more cohesive manner, right? How to align it with ROI and business objectives. So that landscape really matured over 18 months. And I'm excited to hit the ground running, from where it seems to be now.
So, we talk a lot about use cases, or if somebody jumps on the Tuesday call, or if we go to one of, Sam's trainings. I think we do a lot of great conversations around use cases, and I think it's important to talk about it again. Of From an AI perspective, what are the AI use cases that actually matter that you're seeing get funded, and why? Why is that now? What are those cases?
When it's so funny because when I talked about AI 18 months ago, I said, the safest place to use AI in CX is in the non-customer facing realm, right? So put it in your back end, put in the analytics. So you have a gold mine of all this data, right? Your observe AIs, your level AIs, all these people analyzing data, and they'll help you make decisions. You'll understand trends in your data center, or in your call center. You understand trends like, why are people calling about XYZ product, or sales are up in this month and down in that month. Like, use AI in a safe way where it's not customer impacting. You won't be the next, Air Canada or whatever, embarrassing chatbot experience you want to see on the internet is. And you could harvest all that data and then go make a ton of great decisions, and everyone looks good. And 90% of the conversations I have are still on the front end. They're still in chatbots and voice bots. They're still customer impacting. So what's getting funded is revenue driving stuff. Whether that's solving the problem of agent attrition, right? If I have 100 agents and I roll over 25 a year, people don't want that pain of rolling through 25 agents. They also don't want the pain of agents sitting there and answering, what's my account balance? Or I want to reset my password, like the really simple stuff. So it's funny to me that the easiest, most non-threatening part of AI is not what's coming up in these conversations. It's the most forward-facing, customer-focused, highest risk for failure or embarrassment is still getting funded because it has the most tremendous impact on customers and on reputation and on revenue and on ROI. So the questions that we keep getting, I still can't wait to have these, back end data conversations because I just think they're so much fun. And agent assist in the middle, right, is there, but it's a big umbrella there. But all the attention is on when a human being interacting with AI and how do we keep that customer happy while reducing the strain on the human load of the contact center. That seems to be what's getting the most attention right now.
So I love to always make sure whatever our topic is. I'm a big, we talk about what changed us early on as an engineer. For me, it was reading the right strategy to ask questions and learn that people didn't want you to vomit everything that you knew, and that wasn't value. It turned out we need to know what they want, and then we talk about that. That helped me get a lot better. So, from your seat, what's the angle for the TAs listening? Right, what's the angle of getting these executives to take a CX AI meeting right now? How would you frame that up as they're prospecting out there?
Well, this could get me in trouble. No, I always make the analogy of sales and dating. And I promise we're not going too far, Joe. Think back to dating, right? Like if you sat there and talk about yourself for 2 hours, you're not getting a second date. A lot of great things to know about me, but doesn't matter. The other person on the other side of that table doesn't care. You just have to be curious about what the customer wants. Now you have to have the ability to handle that conversation, right? Like if I'm on a date or I'm on a sales call and I'm asking questions, I have the ability to follow up and actively listen and have a complex set of knowledge, whether that be things for a date or things for a conversation. But you have to actively listen. You have to be interested in the answer. You can't just say uh-huh and pretend to take notes. Like you have to actively listen to this customer and make them feel like whatever they're saying is the most important thing in the world, because they will keep talking and they will keep telling you eventually, like they're going to be guarded up front, right? You're a salesperson. I want you to sell me. But if you truly listen, they will eventually relax, right? Their shoulders will drop. They'll sit further back in their chair and they will start telling you what is important to them. And maybe it's just saving money, right? Maybe it's, hey, the last two software installs went terribly and my job's on the line. Like, or hey, the company's going to fail if we don't get this right, kind of thing. Like whatever it is, be curious, have a fundamental knowledge of contact center and AI and what possible business outcomes are there. Be genuinely curious about the customer, about where they came from, what's their current state, where are they going, why, is it competitive pressure, is it board pressure, whatever it is, and just don't say, well, you need to talk to XYZ vendor. Like that's not the job. The job isn't to say, I've listened to you for 5 minutes, you should go talk to this vendor. The job is to say, that's so interesting. Let me work on this for you. Like, let me come back to you with this because I have a lot of options for you. I don't want to make sure I have the right one. And so TAs, it's no different than when we were selling anything 20 years ago, but it's being curious, being inquisitive, following up, right? Ask second and third level questions and really come back to the customer with documentation that says, I listened to you. Here's what I think I heard. Here's what I think you're trying to go. Is that right? Because if it is, here's two great options. And I have this engineer over here who can help us map this out or ask other questions or vet these vendors fully, like really, you know, um, make sure that they're accurate in their answers. But the fundamental part of tech sales isn't any different than it was 10, 20 years ago. It's about listening to the other person, right? It's basic communication and psychology. I will I will buy something from you if you convince me that I want it. That if I convince myself that I want it, sorry, I messed it up, right? If you're selling me,
Yeah.
I'm gonna resist that, right? That's human nature. But if you listen to me enough where I make my own decision and you're just providing the input, then that's how we get to a tech sale. And contact center is no different. It's just insanely complicated and detailed. And there's a lot of different ways it could go. But that's what the really, really good advisors listen. The really good sales engineers listen, right? Customer does more talking, I do more listening. I'll talk more on the next call. And I think that's generally where we find success.
I love it. I love that too. I know it's fundamental or might feel fundamental to some, but just being reminded of this, whether you're wrapping the meeting or whether you're beginning that kind of second meeting, it's, hey, you've deemed that this and this and this and this and this. If you did what Brent said of follow these steps, right? And you pull that out, we're going to cover this today. Is that accurate? Right? Is that the direction you want to go? Or has anything changed? Because these things change. Somebody gets a board mandate or a whatever handed down, just the validity and I love the psychological component of this. I mean, there's two paths to it seems, right? And the shortest path is the one that we want to go. And if that's where we know how this meeting's going to go, we know we're going to get there. I could come in and I could vomit on you, and then you're going to be like, "Ooh, that's gross." Or we take Brent's advice and we go, "Hey, we want to go around about this way, and it's going to take us a little longer to get there." But they go, "Oh my gosh, this Brent guy, he listened to what we needed, and I
You
feel
get a
like he
second
understands
date.
us." Yeah,
Second date, Josh.
we're going to Chili's, man. Like this is great. Like 2 for 20,
Only
baby.
only mid-grade restaurants in this
Yeah.
conversation. No
One
no Ruth's
day
Chris.
yeah, no Sizzler though. No
No.
Sizzler. Ruth's
Well,
Chris,
that
like,
cheesy bread, that's good stuff.
well, hey, Little Caesars, there's nothing wrong with the cheesy bread. Alright.
But no, I mean, it's funny you say throwing up, right? Like going back to like when I was the first SE, yeah, my job was just spit all this technical jargon out there and then you're going to buy it because it's so amazing. And like that doesn't work. I forget where, I think it was at Sprint, but there was like a vendor, like the Sprint network, and we sold, it was like vehicle tracking or something like that. And the CEO of that vehicle tracking company was in LA and he wanted to go on meetings and he wanted to present. And I was doing big government accounts. I brought him to like either Department of Water and Power, like some big Los Angeles kind of thing that had a need. They expressed the need in vehicle tracking, right? It was something there. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to let this guy handle it today. He's the CEO. Like, I'm just the SE. And the guy literally turned his laptop around and pressed play on a video and to the customer fell asleep. Like, the customer dozed off. And I'm looking at it going, all right, my sales rep's pissed at me, and I'm pissed at me, and this customer's pissed at me, and the CEO thinks he's doing a great job. And it's like, we could have got something done in that meeting. We probably could have sold something eventually in that meeting, but the delivery was awful, right? It was just playing a video after lunch that no one wanted to listen to, and like no one was actually listening. The customer was just trying to wow someone with the art of the possible and just hoping they sign an order. And it doesn't work that way. Like so that asking questions thing, like keeping them involved, it's poker. It's back and forth. You bet, I bet, check. Like who's reading who in the room, but it's always the customer first. And then for us, it's the advisor and the customer. We have multiple customers in a deal, but it's my job to listen to the advisor on how they're trying to craft the deal, and it's my job to listen to the end customer to make sure that everything there is aligned. And then it's my job to go coach the vendors that we're going to bring in to say, hey, this is how this deal is going to go, and this is what success looks like. And if you're not going to do X, Y, and Z, then you're not invited, to the first call, and you won't be invited to the next call if you don't listen to that too. But it's our job to make sure that everybody is focused on that end customer and keeping their future state, their desires, their goals in mind, because otherwise we just have a customer that falls asleep because no one's listening to them.
Bad day. It's embarrassing.
It was that was a
So
long
our
drive
goal,
home, is
guys,
what
our
that
goal
was.
here is to make sure for you, the TAs, that you don't fall asleep and the customer doesn't fall asleep. As long as we do that, like that's the bottom, guys. It's I promise you it's gonna be better than that. Um, all right, so final thought here. I mean, we're talking about this evolving stack. We flashed back, 18, 24 months. So what's your advice here, as advisors are taking you up on these conversations, getting these great foundational data points kind of together and pulled out, from the customer threads. Anywhere that the advisors should be leaning now if they want to stay, as this constantly evolves just over the next couple of years?
Um, yeah, I mean, you said it before, but this stuff is changing fast, and so it's going to change. Even if a customer said today, I want to go evaluate this kind of AI, by the time they buy it, it's going to change. Like it might change before the next demo, what's available or what's possible or what it can do. So I would think, one advice would just be open, right, to a fast-paced moving technological landscape. Don't set expectations that the technology can't live up to, but don't set them so rigidly that when the technology expands past it, that feels uncomfortable to the customer, right? Just know, right, this is like a big tsunami, right, of technology that's coming, and it's going to keep growing and keep changing. But I would really, really encourage advisors to research this technology, use this technology, like bring your own use cases to it. Like, when it's easier to sell technology that you use because you can use anecdotal information or examples in your day to day. I'm not saying to go become a call text center agent, right, and use it, use AI, agent assist or whatever to live the life in the agent, but like there's videos you can watch, right? There's tutorials you can read. I subscribe to Masters. I love Masters class. There's so much cool information in Masters class that made you think strategically. So it's get out of the transactional nature of this and get into the strategic part of this and use AI, whether it's Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude or whatever. Use this technology in your research, in your account planning, in your presentation creation, whatever it is. Find ways to use it, because when you're comfortable with it and you can bring that level of personal touch and feel and usability into that conversation, it's going to play off what I'm doing or what Mike B or Sam's doing. And it's going to just bring this level of comfort to your customer who's looking for direction in this in this world of technology. And they're trusting you and us, right? We as a team collectively to help them make the right decision. And if we're confident, right? If we know what we're talking about and we know what the technology can do, it's just easier than having one person be that point person talking about this technology at a time. So like, just use the technology. It'll help with your prospecting. It'll make your day easier, right? There's a lot of productivity gains with AI, specifically for me around research and things like that. It'll make your day easier. It'll make you more confident in front of your customer, and it will help you sell more. So just immerse yourself in this technology. Read the reports, watch the videos, listen to people explain it. In 2-3 months, you'll be far more technically adept, and you'll have I think you'll have a greater confidence in your sales motions, and you'll be able to go find more of these, because you won't be apprehensive because, well, that's what the SE knows, or that's what the people at Telarus know. I just got to go to find people. And we can work together on this thing. And if we both know what we're talking about, we're both comfortable in this technology, we can be a lot more deadly, in these customer facing scenarios. Not deadly and like we're, affecting the customer, but
Assassins and CX.
yeah,
I was cool with that.
we're bringing that future state to that customer a lot quicker because we kind of understand what the technology is capable of doing.
Great stuff, man. That is a great place to wrap it. Mr. Wilford, thanks for coming on, buddy. Awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Lots of good nuggets here. Appreciate it. All right. That wraps us up, everybody. Don't forget, every Wednesday morning, this thing drops wherever you're coming to us from, Apple, Spotify. Get this before anybody else does, so you can learn some of these pro tips wherever you're coming to us from. We get a lot of people, I'm cutting the grass, I'm working out, I'm whatever. However you can find a great way to digest this.
Walking the dog.
Yeah. We love it. We appreciate it. So I'm your host, Josh Lepresto, SVP of Sales Engineering, Brent Wilford, Telarus Solution Architect, and the new CX staff. Good night.
Next Level BizTech has been a production of Telarus Studio 19. Please visit Telarus.com for more information.